What's up, YouTube? Today we are going to listen to a guy named Matt Walsh, who is a Republican, conservative, traditional style man who's a speaker, a commentator for the right, essentially, social media personality type guy. And he's got his own show on YouTube called The Matt Walsh Show. So this is his take on modern dating, particularly with regards to modern dating apps. And we're just going to play it, and we're going to stop it and talk about it and kind of dissect and go through what he's talking about from the angle of a traditional guy. And I'm going to sort of critique what he's saying from a red pill perspective. Let's get started.
In 1 month, I will celebrate my 10th anniversary with my wife. So far, I must give the marriage experience 5 stars out of 5. I must, because my wife might listen to this, but also because it's actually true.
Okay, so right off the bat, here's a guy who's coming from the perspective of he's already got a happy marriage. I believe he's got 2 kids. He's been married for, I think he said 10 years. Anyway. So here's a guy who's been happily married for 10 years to a traditional woman. I know she's a traditional woman because he talks about it, and also because he's a Republican Christian conservative. And if you're a Republican Christian conservative, you are probably going to marry a traditional woman, and you're probably going to seek for marriage. You do not, probably do not participate in the modern immorality type of dating, et cetera, et cetera. So this is coming from a guy who, has that experience.
I had the good fortune of marrying a woman who's caring, faithful, intelligent, talented, good mother, nurturing, joyful, loving. She also believes in me and supports me in my...
There you go. So he got a unicorn, right? He got a unicorn. He got lucky. He hit the lottery. They don't make women like this anymore very often, and there you go. So this is coming from that perspective.
Ambitions, and that's one of those qualities in a wife that a man kind of takes for granted if he has it, until he realizes that lots of men end up in marriages with women who doubt them, cut them down, belittle their dreams. I've never had to worry about that with my wife, which is a good thing, because as you've noticed, I come up with some pretty weird schemes sometimes, and she's almost always game for it. In fact, sometimes she's the one suggesting the weird schemes and things I should do. All of these are positive qualities, and on top of it all,
no idea what weird schemes he's talking about. I mean, I follow him on Facebook, and really I like to follow people from both sides of the coin. I follow certain Democrat speakers. I follow him, Ben Shapiro, certain other guys who are somewhat in my age range, who are very staunch supporters of their respective parties, whether it's left or right. And I do that because I want to see what these guys from my generation are speaking about, so that I can understand, politics better. So I can, who can understand politics? It's so corrupt and bereft of anything really moral or really anything real or truthful for the most part. But it's interesting to follow and see, because you can see what viewpoints they take, how they think, and this is what shapes our country. And I believe that it's important to understand these things, because it's good to know how people are thinking. It's good to know what's going on. And I follow Matt Walsh, and I support some of his viewpoints. I consider myself a centrist. I don't get into politics because I'm a Christian, right? Because I believe that politics is corrupt, and ultimately it's something that leads people away and distracts people from Christ and distracts people from God. But at the same time, it's good to stay abreast to the current events and the comings and goings of what's going on, so that we can not be ignorant or numb to the feeling of social, the social dynamics out there, right? So this is just interesting to see from his viewpoint. But here's a guy who was a traditional guy, Republican, right? Wanted to marry, got married, has kids, found himself a unicorn of a wife who has the type of values that probably everybody in the red pill community really does value, which is ironic, because there's so much complaints in the red pill community about bad female behavior, but how many guys in the red pill community are talking about finding a trad woman, finding a traditional woman, right? Not too many guys. I've talked about it on my channel. Can you find a trad woman? Is there such a thing? And it's hard, because even trad women will go out and sleep around. Even trad women will go out and ride the cock carousel, even though they have good values. Now, for sure, I would just 100% say steer away from liberal women. Steer away from atheist women for the most part. I would say that, and some people might call that bias, but I think there's good people from both sides per se, and there's thoughtful people and there's moral people from both sides. But for the most part, from my experience, leftists and left-leaning people and liberal-leaning people tend to have a very blurry concept of morality. They tend to have a very kind of casual, laissez-faire attitude towards morality, right? Which means that if she's a left-leaning, liberal type woman, she's going to have no problem sleeping around. She's going to have it's not going to bother her conscience. She's not going to feel like it's immoral to just date plenty of men. So by the time she gets to you, she's totally used up, right? So this guy probably found one, who was not like that, who she was a good woman. She had morals. She had a foundation. She stood upon a moral framework, and she had a lot of character. Now, who knows how much she slept around, but I bet you it wasn't as much as these liberal girls. I bet it wasn't as much as a non-traditional woman. Maybe she had 3 partners before she met him. Maybe she really had 5. Women always say, "Oh, I've only slept with 3 partners," and they're totally lying. They've had hundreds. But maybe she really did. Only some of these liberal girls, some of these traditional girls, they might have only had 2 boyfriends before they get married, and they only slept with those 2 guys. That's not bad, man. I'll take that. I'll take a woman who slept with under 5 men. I might just settle for that. Under 5 guys, I'd say the average is at least 50 for the average woman out there. At least 50. Anywhere from 50 to 200. And that matters. That really, really matters, because it's going to affect her. It's going to affect her character. It's going to affect her judgment. It's going to affect the way she acts and moves and thinks. And even if it doesn't, even if she falls back onto her traditional values after she went and rode the cock carousel, and maybe it really didn't affect her that much, she still got all those body counts, right? So she still got all those experiences, because women enter into sexual relationship on an emotional basis. They need to trust the guy. They need to like the guy emotionally. They need to they need to feel that there's an emotional bond. There needs to be chemistry. Those are like little love experiences over and over and over again. And you say that's 50 to 100 guys. Come on now. That's a damaged woman who's damaged emotionally. It's on some level. He probably didn't experience that. So let's go on to hear what he says from his perspective of finding a unicorn. Although he does make good points in this, keep that in mind that's his subjective experience.
I must say that my wife is actually also really hot, which frankly is a huge bonus. Now, if you're looking,
I went and looked up pictures of his wife, and she's okay. She's blonde. She's not. I wouldn't by no means define her as really hot, but she's good looking.
Yeah, me and wondering how I managed to land somebody with all of those qualities.
You got lucky.
I have no answer for you. I'm just as perplexed as you are.
You got lucky, buddy.
It's just one of the reasons why I thank God every day that I am married. And another reason is that being married means I'm not involved in a dating scene today, which is great because that scene is abysmal in every conceivable way. Now, dating was not easy a decade ago when I was still in the game, but it was a walk in the park compared to the situation today. It's probably never been more difficult in modern American history, anyway, for a single person to find the right match. And that may seem paradoxical because it's also true that single people have never had more choices. And that's exactly the problem. Case in point, a recent article on the website studyfinds.org about dating apps and how people use them. And this is important because almost all single people today use dating apps. Tinder alone has 57 million users. That's just one app. Overall, about 50% of the population consists of single adults, which is a staggeringly high number as marriage rates continue to plummet.
Yeah, and they're all hooking up. They're all having sex, right? So what are you going to get? Used goods. That's your option. That's your option in today's dating market. Use goods, right?
And about 40% of adults use online dating. So you connect the dots there. Granted, unfortunately, not all of those online daters are actually single, but we can hopefully assume that the vast majority are. So what is the actual experience of using these apps? How do people use them? Here's what the article says. It says, online dating became a way of life for millions of singles during the coronavirus pandemic. Dating apps like Match.com, Tinder, and OkCupid are responsible for 10% of the long-lasting adult relationships in America, which is actually pretty low considering how many people use these apps. And as it turns out, these daters aren't wasting time when it comes to choosing who to swipe right on. A recent study shows that users know within a second whether or not to express interest in someone else. So what makes someone choose to make the move on a profile? Researchers say it comes down to judging the book by its cover. The attractiveness of a person is primarily what compels another to swipe right, the study finds. Within a split second, the user determines whether or not they will accept a date based on appearance and even race. Now, there's nothing new or scandalous about people choosing mates based first on appearance. Appearance is important, and it's not a small or irrelevant detail. Yeah, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but the thing about a book is that you don't have to see the cover while you're reading it. You open the cover and that's it. As for someone you're dating or married to, you have to look at that cover every day. So it's good if you find it appealing. My wife has already outlined, has many wonderful qualities, but I never would have learned about those qualities if I didn't find her attractive.
I mean, that's a good point, so that's definitely a relevant point. And we'll see where he goes with this, but that doesn't mean you just have sex with every person that you see or every person that you go on a date with, but yet this is what these people are doing, because he's leaving out an important detail, and I don't believe he talks about this, but the important detail is that now it's not even just enough to see the person and I want to see this person before I even meet them to see if I like them. And of course, there's a whole problem with, therein lies a very vast problem, which is that the female standard for male attractiveness is just shot through the roof, because now they have unlimited access, right? Before, it was only the guys in their social circle, their quote unquote dating pool, which was their social circle, or where they went to bars and clubs, who they associated with back in the day before the internet, right? And it was also only relegated to the men who approached them on the street. Those were the female options, and that was limited before the internet, the advent of dating apps on the internet. Now that dating apps and the internet are a thing, now their pool and their options are pretty much unlimited. They don't even have to date within their city. They could date in all the other cities in their state, because that's not too far. Not only that, they can date in all the other states in their country, because if the man has money, not a problem. He'll fly her out. I mean, for all intents and purposes, women today do not even have to work. They can just rely on the money that a man will pay her to go see him. Men today, if you're successful financially, many men are paying money for these women to fly out and see them, to basically trick off them, right? To use a colloquial slang term, they're turning tricks. A lot of these women are on flights, going out and seeing men who have the type of money to fly them out and pay them for companionship, whatever that entails, and we know what that entails, right? So it's not just looks, it's also sex, right? Not only do the guys have to be, have money and be incredibly good looking nowadays because of this unlimited access with the dating pool, not only that, the women are going to want to sleep with them first before they even consider to make it, because that's now a thing, which is he's not talking about. It's now a thing that women are not even just women, but people in general. It's a culture now to have sex first before you start dating somebody, right? So he's not even talking about that, which is our culture now. Oh, well, I got to see if the sex is good, because if the sex isn't good, why would I want to have a long-term relationship with the guy if the sex isn't good? Right? What if he's got a small thing, or what if he's not good in bed, and so that just ups the pressure of, not only do you have to be super good looking and make money enough money to fly her out, or enough money to beat all the other guys who were trying to win her with money. Now you got to be good in bed too, because now she's got all these sex partners, and she's going to be comparing you, guaranteed. She's going to be comparing you to all her other sex partners, right? Which is, there's positives and drawbacks to that in a sense, because in the past, if you would just marry somebody and you never had sex with her, you would never know if you were good or not. You never know if the guy had a small dick or not, or if he was good in bed or not. But the thing is that back in the day, they didn't have anything to compare it to. So because they loved their husband, because the guy properly courted her, because she maybe even was a virgin when they met, and she had very little sex partners, if any, to compare his sexuality to, his lovemaking ability. He was great. So that's all she needed. But now she's got 100 partners to compare you to. Not only that, 100 guys that she chose before you who made more money than you, 100 guys who were better looking than you, 100 guys who had better social skills, better social status than you. You see the point? You see where I'm going with this? The standard is astronomical at this point, right? So this guy's coming from this very limited, okay, he met his wife, she's a traditional woman, they both probably barely had sex, they're both Christians, right? So he's coming from this very balloon sheltered, from this, living in a bubble, where he's living in a bubble, right? He's living in his little Christian conservative bubble. He's not even talking about all that. If his wife would have had 100 partners, she probably never would have chose this guy. Maybe he looks kind of short, I mean, she would have X'd him out in a second. I guess he's kind of touching on that concept, right? But anyway, it's just something to think about. Let's go on.
When you first meet someone, you aren't going to know about their deeper, truer selves, and whatever character traits, good or bad, may be lying under the surface.
Of course.
Those things come out in time. It doesn't take a long time, but it does take time. Initially, You're going to be making more surface-level judgments to decide if it's worth investing that time. So that's not in itself the problem here. The problem is the sheer number of choices.
There you go.
And how quickly the dating app user has been conditioned to swipe through them.
There you go.
The problem is also the very act of swiping, I think. There's something about swiping through just doing this, through a series of human faces that makes the whole exercise somewhat dystopian and dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Yes, the cover on the book matters. Yes, physical attraction matters and is important. But these days, people are reduced to just a postage stamp-sized picture on a phone, and potential matches will give them all of 1 second before deciding whether to relegate them to the junk folder. It's quite degrading. I
agree. That's a great point. That's a great point. And because most men will sleep with most women who are relatively attractive, and most women are the opposite, they will not sleep with most men who are relatively attractive, the standard goes up. So you have to really be killing in your pictures. You have to really have a lot of great pictures. So most women are going to just nope based on your picture, right? So it's like and the irony is that most women are like, oh, you only want me for sex. Well, look at what you're doing. This is the hypocrisy and the irony of modern women, is that they claim that they're being used as sex objects, and they claim that men only want one thing from them, but yet women are totally just as, if not more, shallow, and their standards are higher. Think about it. So who's really the one who's being objectified? Is it women or men, right? And he's making the point that we both objectify, that both sexes objectify each other. But clearly, women they have higher standards, so they're actually objectifying us more. Not only that, not even to mention that we have to have money, and we have to have social status, and we have to have all these abilities, that these innate abilities, such as confidence, all these character traits that women do fall for. The irony is that men have very little requirements for women in that department. Just don't be a bitch. Just be somewhat nice. Now, he mentioned some character traits for his woman. She was faithful, sweet, accommodating, and all these things that like supporting him and da-da-da-da. And she was all these great qualities that she had. So he got lucky. This guy really won the lottery. So he tells us. We don't know her whole story or their real dynamic. behind closed doors, but he won the lottery. So a lot of people today are not looking at those qualities. A lot of people today are not focused on these inner things. This is the point he's making. They're just swiping left or right based on looks, which is true. That's a good point. Which is why dating apps are terrible. Which is why people should approach in real life. Which is why people need to start getting out and talking to each other again, so they can really see somebody in real life. And a picture only tells half the story. There's that old saying: believe half of what you hear, or believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. So a picture can really be misleading, particularly when it comes to women, because there's so much makeup they can put on, and it's a weird thing, man.
Not to mention fruitless, because there are so many people on these apps, and because they're designed in such a way to encourage these split-second decisions, all that means is that you have to browse through an enormous number of potential matches. An article in Mashable a couple of years ago, quoting the editor of a trade publication called Global Dating Insights, says that the average dating site user has to swipe through 7,500 profiles before having a meaningful interaction.
Whew.
Now, that's not 7,500 before finding a girlfriend or boyfriend. That's just the amount of swiping needed to even have a meaningful human interaction with a person.
Whew.
And worst of all, because these apps require almost no effort and no investment and no energy to use, they only encourage more of the sort of meandering unseriousness that has already made the dating scene difficult and had made it difficult.
Yeah, it snowballs. People don't take it serious. They joke around, send silly messages. I've done that. You get bored and you're like, oh man, no one's talking to me. Why don't I send out some silly messages and cat, dog, tree bark or something, some stupid thing. I'm just throwing something out, but you say some stupid thing and just to try to elicit a reaction, and then the girl's like, oh, these guys don't even take this serious, or they get like 500 messages a day from guys, and they're just like, how do I cipher through this? And it's just like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke, which is why cold approach is necessary. You need to start going out and talking to women in real life, whether it's going out to a bar or a club, although I don't recommend that. I recommend doing it, figure out a way to do it in person during the day. Best time to do it. You don't want to go talk to a bunch of drunk girls. That doesn't help you out. Not only that, the type of females that bars and clubs attract, pretty trashy, just saying, do it the old fashioned way. Go out and talk to women in real life, but this dating thing is crazy. How are you going to find a good woman on a dating site? I mean, I'm not saying they're not out there, because everybody's on a dating site. It's just that for exactly the reasons that he's saying, people do not take it serious. And because they have a zillion options, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to exercise their options. And women have more options than men. Like, by far. It's not even close. Yes, objectively, there's probably 50% men and 50% women, statistically, on these dating sites. Although I think there's more men than women, but because more women would not need a dating site than men, because men are the ones who have the burden of copulation. Men are the ones who have to actually put in effort and work, exactly like he's saying, right? So it stands to reason that women are not going to take it serious because they have a zillion options. Well, what can you do for me that this guy can't? This guy wants to take me to Cabo San Lucas on his private jet. This guy's a celebrity and he wants me to go out on his yacht with him. What can you do? Take me to Taco Time? Take me to Qdoba? Hello? This is why guys are going MGTOW. This is why guys are taking the red pill, because we don't have options anymore. And it's not even because, we're losing. This is what women want to say. This is the attack, the nasty, it's a horrible thing to do. Blame the man. Oh, you must not be a good guy. And it's just like, so many women have done that over the years. Anytime you say anything bad about a woman or like your date, it's hard out here in the dating world. Well, you just must be a bad person then. No, we're being edged out statistically. The average guy, if you're not a 10 out of 10 in looks, she's not even going to look at your profile. Not only that, you got to make money. And so what essentially what are women doing? This is hypergamy. This is hypergamy in overdrive. What are they doing? They're looking for the top, not even 10% anymore. They're looking for the top 1%. Oh, well, this guy's got a house on the water. Okay, well, this guy owns his own island. There's guys out there, celebrities who own islands. You think her hypergamy is going to choose you? Oh, she just loves me. She just loves me. You know, that's why I always say in this day and age, in the dating scene, if a woman loves you, you got to really take a double take and say, why? What's wrong with that woman that she's interested in me? Because I'm a nobody. All right, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not on a sports team, a professional sports team. I don't make a lot of money. I'm not even that good looking. Why is this woman interested in me? There's something fishy about that. There's something suspect. What's wrong with her that she's interested in me? And that's how broken and decrepit the dating and marriage scene has become. It's so bad that you're actually suspicious if a girl likes you. And with good reason, because probably she's used goods. Probably she can't get anyone better than you. Probably, right? Because women are hypergamous. And people try to say, oh, men are hypergamous too. Yeah, when it comes to looks, maybe that's about it. You know, well, why would I date this 6 when I can date a 9? Maybe, or maybe, I don't know. I really don't know if guys are really that shallow. But I will say that when it comes to all the stuff we talk about in the red pill, you should be that shallow. Yeah, you don't want used goods. You don't want one of these liberal women. You don't want one of these carousel riders, right? Anyway, you shouldn't want one. Hopefully, let's go on.
Well, when I was single a decade ago, swiping left and swiping right becomes more of a game, an end in and of itself. And the people who are on these apps actually looking for meaningful interactions, for relationship, for commitment, have to somehow sort through this sea of people who only want to hook up, or maybe don't even want that. Maybe they want to keep swiping and have no real deep interest in human relationships at all.
Exactly. And how many women out there are just using the sites for validation and attention, right? That's what he's talking about right there. So many.
Perhaps because they feel that their porn habit takes care of those needs. It's instructive that even the words boyfriend...
Now he's being critical against men, which is what these quote-unquote masculine guys, you know, these traditional masculine men, they're always critical of men, and they always give women a pass. But anyway, as if women don't watch porn, as if women don't contribute to the porn culture. Okay.
Girlfriend and dating aren't as common as they once were. Instead of saying, you know, I'm dating this person, you'll hear people say things like, well, we're talking. Someone said to me recently, when referring to the person that we would have once called his girlfriend, he said, yeah, I've been talking to this girl for 6 months. 6 months? And that's how you describe it?
Now he's being critical of men. Oh, men need to take the lead and get into a serious relationship. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the reason why guys are not committing anymore is because what are we committing to? Yeah, we don't want to commit to a woman who is going to change up on us in a year, who's going to let herself go in 2 years, who's going to all of a sudden be bisexual in 5 years, who's all of a sudden going to, you know, no longer want us, you know, in a couple of years. You bet your boots we're afraid to commit, Matt Walsh. You bet your boots we're afraid to commit because we're getting taken to the cleaners in divorce court. Okay? And it's a very serious freaking move to put a ring on a woman's finger in today's day and age when the justice system will give her everything you own. Very serious thing, Matt Walsh.
Just talking? You haven't even graduated to any kind of actual human relationship yet? After 6 months of dating my wife...
Why would we, Matt? Why would we commit? Again, you found a unicorn, and maybe you knew after 6 months that she was so great, you found a unicorn. I've dated women for 3 years who all of a sudden changed up on me after 3 years, and then all of a sudden they were a different person. You got lucky. Maybe she's totally committed to you. Maybe she's just this genuine, real person that she always, and you just found a frickin' big chunk of gold. You found a diamond. Well, guess what? We're not. There's no diamonds out here, Matt. It's just a bunch of dirt clods. Okay? It's just a bunch of behemoths who think that they're God's gift, and they should be God's gift, but they're tainted and ruined by modern feminism. That's the reality of the red pill world that we live in, Matt Walsh.
At that point, I was calling her my fiance because we were engaged.
Oh wow, you're so masculine.
Fear of commitment, passivity, men who will not take the lead in their relationships, single people kind of meandering along,
See, he's blaming men. Men who will not take the lead. Yeah, what do we have to take the lead to?